Behind-the-scenes diplomatic efforts appear to be underway to end the Iran conflict. But in public, there's been a sharp escalation in rhetoric. The US has urged Iran to accept defeat. White House spokesperson Karoline Leavitt has warned of dire consequences if it doesn't.
If Iran fails to accept the reality of the current moment, if they fail to understand that they have been defeated militarily and will continue to be, President Trump will ensure they are hit harder than they have ever been hit before. President Trump does not bluff, and he is prepared to unleash hell. Iran should not miscalculate again.
Well, Iran, however, says it's the US that faces defeat. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi says no negotiations are underway, despite assertions from President Trump. Araghchi says those claims prove that the US is losing the fight.
The fact that the talk of negotiations is now being raised is, in itself, a clear admission of defeat. Weren't they previously speaking about unconditional surrender? What has happened now that they are talking about negotiations and requesting them? I will explain that there is no negotiation taking place, but the very fact that they are mobilizing their highest-ranking officials to negotiate with the Islamic Republic indicates that they have accepted defeat.
Well, that's all as airstrikes keep pounding Iran and Israel. 2 children have been killed after an attack on a residential area near the city of Shiraz in south-central Iran. And multiple blasts have hit the northeastern city of Mashhad. In central and northern Israel, sirens sounded throughout the night as missiles are fired from Lebanon. Well, the White House threats against Iran comes as the US moves even more troops and warships into the Middle East. That's while insisting that Tehran has been militarily destroyed and is desperate for a deal. Teresa reports from Washington.
Coercive diplomacy. This is the term that is being used in the United States to describe the Trump administration's terms that is being, or threats with which it has been referring to Iran in this past few days, with the threats to unleash hell if Iran does not meet the United States demands. Earlier today, Donald Trump attended a fundraising event of the Republican Party. There he said that the Republicans are going to win the midterm elections happening later this year. But polls suggest something different. A recent poll by Reuters says that Donald Trump's popularity right now is around 36%. And the main reason is the war in Iran, the price of oil and the price of gas in this country that has gone up around $1 since this war started. In that event, Donald Trump again spoke about Iran. He said that the United States is winning the war, and this is what he had to say.
We're winning so big, nobody's ever seen anything like we're doing in the Middle East with Iran. And they are negotiating, by the way, and they want to make a deal so badly, but they're afraid to say it because they figure they'll be killed by their own people. They're also afraid they'll be killed by us. There's never been a head of a country that wanted that job less than being the head of Iran.
So as the Trump administration continues to say that there's negotiations underway about this plan that has been presented to Iran, the US government continues to send troops to the Middle East. For the past few days, we have been covering how Marines are being sent to the region, 2,500 from California with 3 warships. These are Special Operations Forces. And now we're hearing that the 82nd Airborne Division will be deployed to. This is a rapid response unit that has the capacity to be deployed to the Middle East in about 24 hours, involved in special operations, and lots of speculation about what they're going to be doing there. Some are saying that they could be involved in operations on Harg Island. This has been referred to by Donald Trump as the jewel of the crown, the place where Iran exports most of its oil. It would be an extremely difficult operation, mostly because it would mean that US forces would probably engage with Iran. And this is highly unpopular here in the United States. It's called putting boots on the ground. So certainly we're seeing the Trump administration increasing the rhetoric, also deploying more troops, with saying that there's negotiations on the way. But many people here in the United States, they want to know how long this war is going to last. Teresa, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Well, Zain Basravi is standing by to bring us the latest from Dubai. But first, let's go to Tohid Asadi. He's in the Iranian capital, Tehran. Tohid, so Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has been very clear, hasn't he, that there are no talks underway with the US. So what more have officials been saying then about this US 15-point plan?
Well, actually, this is not for the first time that we hear from Iran that Tehran is not engaged in a negotiation with the United States, and they are just pointing to at least three contextual elements. First, the complexity of the situation, and second, the very fact that there is this cloud of mistrust between Iran and the United States, particularly when it comes to Tehran's vantage point regarding the approaching the United States for any negotiations, as they have it on the record that 2 times in the past 9 months as they were involved in negotiations when all of a sudden they faced these campaign of airstrikes by the Americans and Israelis. And of course, third, they're saying that any negotiation is going to be conditioned upon actually the stopping of the airstrikes that are targeting Iranian territories now, I would say, on daily or even hourly basis. And speaking of the plan that you mentioned, the 15-point plan, we've got a diplomatic source telling Al Jazeera previously that Tehran has received it, but the source called it extremely maximalist and quote-unquote unreasonable. This is the initial reaction from the Iranian side to this, and now they're saying that they are, if necessary, preparing a detailed account of Iran's position to be delivered to the mediator as a sort of response, but there's still no confirmation that this detailed response has been delivered to the mediator. And of course, that source also told us that it is not beautiful even on paper, describing this proposal. And of course, he said that despite the other side that from time to time keeps changing the goalpost, we are steadfast when it comes to our positions. We know what we want and we know what we will reject. So the Iranian picture here, Iranian perception and understanding regarding the trajectory of talks is quite pragmatic, and right now they don't see that much of sort of positive vibe when it comes to possibility of getting engaged in diplomatic affairs.
Yeah, meanwhile, Tohid, US and Israeli airstrikes continue across Iran. Tell us what's been happening, Tohid.
Well, indeed, in different cities, including Shiraz, where, as you mentioned, 2 children were killed, in other cities such as Lamert, where an airport was targeted. Also in Isfahan, we know that airstrikes continue, and over the past few days, we have witnessed the heavier bombardment of the city, specifically the industrial areas of Isfahan have been heavily targeted. Also, we know that in Karaj, a city located very close to Tehran in the western parts of the capital, sounds of massive explosions were reported overnight. And of course, in Bandar Abbas, we know that also this is one of the important cities in the southern parts of Tehran. Attacks and airstrikes were reported over the past 24 hours. In Mashhad, one of the holy cities of the country, we know that explosions are taking place over the past 1 day or 2. And of course, in Taibat, which is a city located in the border areas between Iran and Afghanistan, also we know that assaults have been happening over the past, I would say, 1 day or 2. All in all, we know that more than 200 cities across the country since the commencement of these campaign of airstrikes by the Americans and Israelis have been targeted. We know that more than 81,000 civilian units, including homes and apartments and including houses and schools, have been impacted. Some of them fully demolished, some of them damaged. And of course, this is the human impact of this story that should be taken into account, seeing the very fact that more than 1,400 people have also lost their lives when it comes to these continued sustained airstrikes.
Tohid Asadi in Tehran, thank you.